So, what's interesting? Every time I open questions on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, or I'm sitting somewhere socially, or someone pulls me aside quietly at dinner, eventually I get that one question. And it's not about business, it's not about travel, it's not about my success. They ask about my marriage. They lean in a little closer and say, "So, how does it actually work?" Hmm. And what they really mean is, how does it work when you are Hindu and your husband is Muslim and neither of you converted? And I always smile because the answer is actually very simple. It works because we respect each other. But I think people expect something more dramatic than that. Yeah, it's wild. But anyway, now that I have your attention, maybe this is the perfect place to actually welcome you to the High Vibe Club, or what I'm starting to feel evolve into the High Vibe Collective. If you are new here, my name is Bina, and I'm someone who is deeply curious about life. I think a lot. Sometimes a bit too much. I'm always reflecting, questioning, trying to understand people, why we behave the way we do, how cultures shape us, how trauma shapes us, how we can heal and become better humans. I wouldn't say I sit cross-legged meditating on a beautiful mountain every morning, but I do spend a lot of time going inward, thinking about life, about love, about habits, thinking about how we can evolve. And at the same time, I'm also someone who loves living really, really well. I love beauty. I love travel. I love gorgeous spaces, great food, beautiful experiences with people I love and adore. And I'd like to think that I'm a spiritual baddie who also loves a luxurious life. And I've learned that those two things can absolutely exist together. Because I think for me, spirituality was never about shrinking or suffering. It's about awareness. It's about evolving while still allowing yourself to experience life fully. I've spent a lot of time unlearning things, healing parts of myself shaped by childhood, by culture, by expectations, and learning how to build a life that actually feels peaceful. And somewhere along the way, I realized something really important. You can do deep inner work and still live a beautiful life. You can heal and still enjoy abundance. You can honor your culture without being trapped by it. And that's really what the space is about. Real connections, deep conversations. Let me repeat, really deep conversations about healing, relationships, culture, spirituality, and the messy, beautiful process of becoming who you really are. So if you're someone who is healing, growing, questioning life, and building something beautiful at the same time, you're in the right space. You are home. Let's talk about that question people always ask me. How does it actually work? When I met my husband, religion wasn't a debate. It wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't a conversation about who would change for who. It was simply part of who we were. I grew up Hindu, so the prayers, the rituals, the colors, the festivals, all of that is woven into my childhood. And my husband grew up Muslim. His faith, his discipline, his devotion, Ramadan, those things shaped him. And neither of us entered the relationship trying to edit the other. There was no pressure, no subtle expectation, no power play, just choice. And I think that's what surprises people, because we're so used to love being transactional. We're used to someone having to give something up to prove loyalty. But I believe mature love doesn't demand identity as collateral. You see, in our home, Ramadan comes and there's a quiet shift. There's reflection, there's discipline, there's intention. I don't need to be Muslim to respect that. And when Diwali comes, there's lights, there's prayer, there's celebration. He doesn't need to be Hindu to stand beside me in that. There's no competition. There's no spiritual scoreboard. We don't sit there debating whose religion is correct. We focus on something much simpler. Are we good people? Are we kind? Are we honest? Are we creating a peaceful home? Because to me, that matters far more than labels. Now let's be honest, is it controversial? Of course. There are people who don't understand it. There are people who think one of us should have converted or need to convert. There are people who quietly judge, and that's okay, because I've learned something over the years. If your relationship only feels secure when someone changes for you, that's not strength. And if your faith only feels valid when someone else abandons theirs, that is not faith. Two people standing fully in who they are and still choosing each other, that is strength. That is devotion. Before we were Hindu, before we were Muslim, before we were Jewish, before we were Christian, before we were anything, before we were labeled anything, we were souls, children of the universe. Religion at its highest level was meant to guide us, to teach us humility, compassion, discipline, kindness. It was never meant to divide people who are living with integrity. I don't believe goodness belongs to one religion. And I don't believe devotion is proven through conversion. I believe devotion is proven through character, through how you show up, through how you treat people, through how safe your home feels. People always ask us about children as well. You know, how will you raise them? And the answer is quite simple. I'd say with awareness, with respect, with understanding of both traditions, but most importantly, with kindness. Because if a child grows up respecting humanity, I've done my job. I don't want to raise a child who is rigid and fearful. I want to raise a child who is grounded and compassionate. And maybe this episode isn't really about religion at all. Maybe it's about autonomy, about choosing a life that feels aligned to you, even if it makes other people uncomfortable. It's about not shrinking yourself to fit expectations. It's about knowing that the only real judgment that matters comes from a higher power. And that's private and sacred. I live my life with intention. I try to be good, to do good, to treat people well, not because of a label, but because of conscience. Because when everything is stripped away, religion, status, opinions, what remains is how you treated people. What remains is your heart, your kindness. So if you've ever felt judged for loving differently, if you've ever chosen alignment over expectation, if you've ever quietly stood in your truth while people whispered, you are not alone. And you're not wrong. You're allowed to build a life that feels peaceful to you. You're allowed to love without losing yourself. You're allowed to be deeply spiritual without being rigid. We are children of the universe first. Everything else is secondary. And that's the energy I'm bringing into 2026. So welcome back to the High Vibe Club. Let's go deeper this year.